Cardinals Saints reaction, a little late here, a little recap action. This is from last Thursday night. We are recapping it on a Monday, right before Monday Night Football. We're going to do so with the backdrop of my guy Peter Schrager and Good Morning Football. Real quick before I get into the video, obviously I haven't watched it yet, but I just want to talk about kind of how I saw the game. I mean, it was bad. You know, it wasn't good. These Saints games are hard. Well, let me just get this straight. All right, let me get this out in the open. Let me make this very clear. If you are going to go back to Jameis Winston, I wouldn't. I think the writing is on the wall with both these quarterbacks. I think they're both out. I don't think there's really any harm in playing Jameis. I think Jameis and Andy are basically the exact same quarterback, same ceiling, same floor. If you are going to go back to Jameis, you have to do it now, right? You have to do it on the extended break. You have to do it, you're going to have 10 days rest, and you have to do it off the heels of Andy Dalton's one of his worst games and a shellacking in Arizona. That way there's no controversy. If you want to give Jameis another chance, if you think that maybe he can provide a spark, then you do it. I don't think that he's the answer, but I'm also not going to advocate for Andy Dalton for the rest of the season. But it's hard to judge the Saints. I mean, I've said this every week, but it's hard to judge the Saints when you have so many people hurt. We've seen it with the Vikings. We've seen it now against the Bengals. We saw it now against the Cardinals, where it's just every week you're missing 4, 5, 6 starters. I mean, you're down to your 3rd, 4th, 5th receivers. Bradley Roby got hurt in this game. We had our 3rd, 4th, 5th cornerbacks, against DeAndre Hopkins. Like, that's not good. That's not going to work, especially when you have Dalton or Jameis as your quarterback. It's just not going to work well. Something that I preach every game, because I can't really grade the players. I can't really grade the results. I can grade the coaches. And I always talk about Dennis Allen and Pete Carmichael. I don't want to come up here after wins or after good performances and say, they got it figured out. And then a week later say, they're shit. But they seem to be kind of lost. They seem to be just doing things with no rhyme or reason. They seem to just kind of be rolling through the play sheet. I'm so sick and tired of watching these games and seeing Alvin Kamara rip off a 10-yard run, and then he gets taken out of the game, and then I have to wait through 5 personnel shifts for Kamara to get the ball again. It shouldn't be Kamara runs, then he gets out, Ingram runs, then he gets out, Taysom runs, then we do a passing play, then we do play action. Then Kamara comes back in for a play action. Oh, he goes back out. Taysom's throwing now. All right, now Kamara's in for a run. Like, he's the best player on the team. He is the best player on the team. He is your guy. Utilize him. As you can see right here, he has 11 rushes for 49 yards. He had 9 carries in the first half. So he had either 8 or 9. I think it was 9, but it might have been 8. That means he either had 2 or 3 carries in the second half. Now, I know you'll say, well, James, I mean, they were getting their ass kicked. They had to throw. Sure. Whatever. But that's not the answer. The answer, when you're down, the answer can't be like some second grader in Madden who's like, well, we're down. I'm just going to spam passing plays the entire time. Get your best player involved. And again, the same shit that I said last time happened, where Kamara had, 2 catches going into the last 5 minutes? Then all of a sudden he has 6 catches. They just dump it off to him at the end. How is he not in the game plan? How is he not involved in any of... And I'm not saying they would have won the game, but I think it's just such a waste to be down so many weapons. You're down Michael Thomas. You're down Jarvis Landry. And you have Kamara back. He's been hurt. You have him back and he's playing well. Get him the ball. Give him his touches. I know you're down. Give him his touches, whether it's receiving or running or whatever. But they just seem to be just rolling through a random play set. I mean, I don't think these two are the guys. I don't think, and that leads me to my next thing. My next thing with this is, maybe a lot of like Saints Twitter or what I'm seeing are people who are relatively new to sports as a whole, but it's insane to me the reactions that come out of these games every week. I mean, it really is. Like right now, the Saints are 2-5. They face the Raiders at home. Okay, face the Raiders at home. Let's say they lose. you're still going to see people on Twitter who are like, well, maybe if we put Jameis in, we can make a run. A run to what? A run to what? To what? They're concocting these insane, elaborate ways to sneak into the playoffs at 7-10 and get destroyed in the first round. And people think that's a winning. That's a win. At this point, this is how you should be watching the Saints games. You should be watching certain players and decide their future on this team. You should be watching the coaches, and then you should be figuring out what you want to happen in the offseason. What I want to happen in the offseason is a complete overhaul of the coaching staff. Carmichael and Allen have to be out. I wouldn't mind a restructuring of Allen and say, look, man, you want to take back over the defense, and then we can, find a head coach and offensive coordinator. What I really want to happen, the dream of all dreams, is Sean Payton to come back. I think Sean Payton could come back, just reset there, and then we got to find a quarterback in free agency or through the draft. But I mean, this season, and that's another thing too, like, people expect to just be good. People expect to be good and be relevant all the time. That doesn't happen. I mean, Drew Brees had a 7-9 season. You lose games. You have to enjoy or at least be entertained or whatever by these seasons as well, where you're losing, you're kind of below average, you want to just be competitive, you want to, you're watching more of a micro kind of view of the game versus like this results oriented view. And I think people are just too used to that results oriented view. They're too used to, what are players doing for my fantasy team? Do teams have a W or an L in their record? Are we going to the playoffs or not? And I mean, I grew up during the Aaron Brooks era, and I can tell you, I just don't know if a lot of these fans can handle, 5, 6, 7 straight years of losing seasons, or 5, 6, 7 straight years of no playoffs. It's crazy. It's crazy, and it may be more of like a tunnel because I'm in New Orleans and I'm hearing it all the time and I'm seeing it all the time. Same with the Pelicans, though. And I don't want to get on the Pelicans thing because this is a Saints video, and we'll do Pelicans videos this week. But let's go ahead and watch Schrager here. I mean, like, it's hard for me to get into, obviously I could sit here and be like, hey, the defense got absolutely shredded. So yeah, well, obviously the defense is going to get shredded. We're hurt. Man, I can't believe we let DeAndre Hopkins have 10 receptions for 103 yards. You can't. We had Chris Harris on him. We had Chris Harris on DeAndre Hopkins. He was on the practice team 2 weeks ago. That's not a slight to Chris Harris. That's just where we're at right now. That's just where we're at with injuries. I can't believe Andy Dalton threw 3 interceptions on a short week on the road. I can absolutely believe that happened. I can't believe the Saints dropped games to the Cardinals, the Vikings, the Bengals. I can. I mean, it happens. It's the NFL. So let's go ahead and watch this, and we'll keep kind of talking through this.
They scored 42 points, 2 of them touchdowns on defense.
Man, this is wild. I've not seen this. Can you all see this guy talking on this side here? I almost just broke my neck on my cord there. Watch this guy talk as it's going on.
Let's hear, though, from Kyler Murray on the Cardinals offense, though, with
what is happening? Is he doing sign language? Is he just talking? Is there a delay?
number 10 back in the lineup.
He is talking, so there must be a delay. All right, I don't want to hear Kyler talk. Let's go.
Time for the moment of the game.
I don't want to see highlights either. Let's go to the talking heads. Let's find the talking heads. All right.
Beautiful, flying through the air, poetry.
That was crazy. That was a crazy play.
It's a great way to describe it.
Sure is.
NFL All Day is the newest way to enjoy the NFL Collect officially licensed moments featuring top highlights.
That Dalton pick, that pick wasn't his fault. The other ones were terrible. I mean, the other ones were real bad. No doubt about it. The other ones were a mess.
New life in the desert after that game on Thursday Night Football. The records, I think, Kyle, you said yesterday, kind of imply that, like, the loser has to leave the chat, essentially.
Yeah, that's an 80s wrestling term. If you know...
Yeah, losers leave town match, for sure. The Saints are officially now fighting in loser leave town matches. Schrager, unbelievable posture here. Loser leave town match with the Cardinals, where now, if the Cardinals lose the game against the Saints, their season's probably over. The Saints season is over. The only reason it has some life, even though it really kind of doesn't, is because of how bad the NFC South is. The Saints now are in a loser leaves town match with the Raiders. If the Raiders lose to the Saints, then the Raiders season is over. If the Raiders beat the Saints, then the Raiders can salvage something and maybe fight for a wild card. Granted, the Saints, if they lose to the Raiders, my God, I mean, they're 2-6. Oh, mama. Dropped 2 in a row at home. Oh, mama.
80s wrestling only use that term. It's great.
Was it loser leaves a what?
Loser leaves town.
Loser leaves town. Okay. Yeah. So Cardinals were not that. They won, and they felt like they put themselves on a different trajectory after the game last night. What do we make of that win?
It's a classic get-right game for the Cardinals. It's a classic, all right, guys, look. We're playing a lesser opponent. We've been down. People are about to fire Cliff Kingsbury. What can we do here? How can we get right? In come the Saints on a short week, mega injured, real banged up, and it's a classic get right game.
Peter.
Okay, so let's go to the pivotal moment. They're losing in this game. Everyone on Twitter is having a field day. Cardinals are done, and then it's this big 4th and 1, and Kyler Murray does what Kyler Murray does. He has this incredible play where he goes and there's a play action and he runs and he's got to outstretch it. Great blocking on the outside, and they get it, and it should be this moment of great.
Okay, yeah, Kyler Murray is popping off right here. He's screaming at Cliff Kingsbury. Side note on Kyle Brandt, the guy to the left of Peter Schrager. I used to listen to Jim Rome a lot, and by a lot I mean every single day, every second of the show, when I worked in a plumbing warehouse, and I had like this old school FM AM radio. I used to listen to sports talk radio all day. Well, it wasn't sports talk. It was sports talk and then political radio. So it would go, my daily schedule. This is before you could change. I couldn't change the channel. I couldn't stream whoever I wanted to. So I was just given whoever it could be. I caught about an hour, or I caught 2 hours of Mike and Mike from 7 to 9. Then I caught the entirety of Colin Cowherd's show, The Herd, when it was on ESPN. Then I caught Jim Rome's show, and it was Jim Rome's entire show. And then it would switch to Sean Hannity for 1 hour. And the Hannity was the lesser of the day, but it was 1 hour of Hannity. But Jim Rome was the man. Jim Rome is the man, very underrated. And Jim Rome's producer was Kyle Brandt. And I remember when Kyle Brandt left Jim Rome's show to go do Good Morning Football, where now he's become a star. Kyle Brandt, very, very talented, awesome guy.
I think after the game, they both kind of had a grin and a smile about it.
So Schrager's talking about Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury's blow up, which I don't think either are the answer in Arizona. I think they are both taking under a lot of pressure for their big deals and for the team struggles. And, one of them is usually the scapegoat. And I mean, tensions do run hot, and it is what it is.
This is Kevin White. You remember him?
Kevin White, former Bear. I think he was like a 7th overall pick or something, but that's Kevin White right there. But that just shows the depth or the lack of starters for the Saints. We're down to the Kevin Whites. We're down to, like I said earlier, Chris Harris. We are elevating practice squad players to starter roles in road games on a short week. Like, every combination is just bad for the Saints.
It's that Kevin White, 2015 draft, 7th overall pick to the Bears. Guys, he was on the Saints practice squad. You remember this guy, the legendary, almost like mythical?
I think he went to West Virginia.
Figure of Kevin White, West Virginia, 4'3", looked like he was going to be the next Calvin Johnson and just got hurt and changed teams. That's him. It's an unbelievable thing that happened. It was kind of like a joke that we were all bonding over, but we were all really happy for him. And he comes out and makes this massive, massive play. Let's take a quick look back at Kevin White. Yes. If you watch this show.
A quick look back on Kevin White's career? Man, I didn't realize we were going to a Kevin White. We're in a full-on Kevin White career here. What is going on, boys? All right, so we had to cut short the Good Morning Football video, went into a lot more of the Cardinals, so we kind of slice and dice a little bit there. So my apologies for the quick cut here, but we are on the team stats page, so let's take a look at this from the game. A lot of the times we like to draw stuff from these and break them down and kind of look into the game within the game. The first thing you can notice is obviously the turnover. So it doesn't take a wizard to watch the game and figure out this is where the game was won and lost. It was 14-14 before the double pick sixes. If you lose the turnover margin by 3, you're going to lose the football game. Like that's just usually how it goes 99% of the time. So you really don't even have to look at the other stats, but we will. Yards per play, again, doesn't matter very much in these situations because when you're up so much, the defense plays back and the defense just allows you to have whatever you want up front. So it's going to be 6, 7, 8 yard chunks, which is going to inflate your YPP. Plays, same thing. The Saints are trying to run a lot of plays, a lot of 2-minute drills. The Cardinals are not. They're trying to shorten the field. They're trying to kill the clock. So that's skewed as well. Rushing yards per rush. The Cardinals shut us down. We talked about this in the preview that the Cardinals had an above average run defense. I believe it was like number 9, and they shut them down. I mean, granted, it was on 22 attempts, and only 11 of those were Alvin Kamara, but still, a 3.9 yards per carry is pretty brutal for the Hoodats. As far as the Cardinals go, a lot of this is tough because of that second quarter with the pick sixes and changes their offense. But for them, a 5.4 yards per play, nothing special. They ran the ball. With a team like the Cardinals, you have to factor in like who's running it, to factor in the Kyler Murray effect, things like that. The one thing that I would say was for sure, Benjamin had a couple of long runs, but the one thing for sure I would say was that DeAndre Hopkins was very much missed by the Arizona Cardinals. DeAndre Hopkins was everywhere. Granted, he's going against 3rd and 4th string cornerbacks, but still, he was a factor, and I think that Kyler Murray is going to target him a lot. And that's something to remember with prop bets. So like we try and keep this as a very betting friendly show, mostly betting. So it's something to remember that DeAndre Hopkins is going to get 10 targets a game somewhere in there. So if you see a book hang, they hang a weak line, it's probably going to be 6.5. I would say most games it could creep up a little bit if he keeps popping off. But if they hang a weak 6.5, you might want to jump on it, especially if you believe the Cardinals are going to be throwing. We tried in the preview to try and figure out how the game would flow, and obviously we messed that up. But if you think the Cardinals will be down, or if you think the Cardinals will be throwing a lot, then you're going to want to look to DeAndre Hopkins moving forward because of his heavy target share. So again, this is a late recap. There's not much to talk about here. We all know, what's going on. We all watched the game. We all saw the game. It's just, to me, it's off the field. Like, to me, it's less about what's on the field. I could get on here and be like, man, I just can't believe Alvin Kamara, or I can't believe Mark Ingram did this, or I can't believe this holding penalty, or I can't believe this missed call, or whatever. But it's much more about the structure of the franchise. It's much more about the future of the franchise, what we're going to do in the offseason, what we're going to check out this season, who is with us, who's not going to be there anymore. The future of Michael Thomas, the future of Marshawn Lattimore, players like that. We can get them back this season. If Lattimore comes back, if Thomas comes back, and we start to play a little bit better. I don't think the Saints are the worst team in the NFL. I don't think the Saints, if we look at the standings, I don't think the Saints are even let's see. So let's just look at the NFC. I would say I would put the Saints as better than probably the Commanders, the Bears, the Lions, probably the Panthers, and that's probably about it. So, I mean, in the NFC, what was that? So we had Commanders, Bears, Lions, Panthers. So they're probably the 5th worst team in the NFC. And let's see, in the AFC, I would put them ahead of probably the Steelers, the Texans. So the Steelers and the Texans. So we had 4 worse, 4, 5, 6. So they're probably the 7th worst team in the NFL. Does that sound right to you guys? Do y'all think the Saints are the 7th worst team in the NFL? That kind of sounds about right. So I mean, who else would there be? I guess you could say Denver with Brett Rypien, but that's kind of an injury situation. None of these teams. Not the Browns, not the Bengals, not the Ravens. Yeah, I think somewhere in that 7. But the problem, again, like I almost just said, the problem is the defense. The problem is, for the past couple of years, the Saints have had like a top 5, top 10 defense, and now we don't. And it's hard for me to sit here and be like, yep, that's the problem, when I know that there's an enormous amount of injuries, So it's just a wait and see game right now, guys. It sucks, but it's a wait and see game. It's a wait, let people get healthy, and then you'll see what happens. But as far as I mean, as far as these games, all we can do is watch the injury report. Like, the injury report is more important than the games right now, just to see who's playing, who's not playing. But if we keep rolling out practice squad level teams against NFL teams, especially NFL teams with playoff aspirations like the Vikings, the Cardinals, the Bengals, the Raiders, we may be able to sneak one against the Steelers with a team like this. But I mean, we have a tough schedule, and we have a tough schedule, and we have a tough task ahead of us with all these injuries. But sorry for the late recap and the late reaction there. But again, Thursday I had to go to town. Friday, Saturday, Sunday just got back into town. So I'm going to go watch Monday Night Football, and then I would be doing the power rankings, but the Patriots, they do hinge on the top 10. So I have to watch this performance in order to grade them for our Tuesday power rankings. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to the channel for more videos. I appreciate it. No one can do what I can do.